Hi, Emily. Long time no see.
Yes, hi Sue.
Mostly, I'm interested in knowing after the session what kind of benefits that you received.
Yes, so I feel that a sense of calm
Mm,
um, from being more connected to the higher self. There was also a lot of confirmation
mm,
of kind of inner things that I had been wondering or um, wanting to work on. And through the session, there was a lot of confirmation. And so
mm,
I suppose I could also say I felt more confident. Um, it also confirmed for me feeling so different sometimes
What do you mean?
within especially within the normal world and within my family and my friends from childhood and teenage years. I'm kind of on a different track in many ways, and the session with the past life that I saw sort of explained that and confirmed other meditation experiences I've had. And for me, that feels just very confirming that it's part of the greater plan and it's part of everything, and part of the magic I've been doing in past lives is coming into this. And that's part of why, you know, I think different people are being seated in different places to do different work. um,
Mm,
yeah, so it was very kind. I feel more confidence, uh, I would say. And I think it might have also contributed to opening up my dreams a little bit, and that's been lasting. Even so, the session was about a month ago or 3 weeks ago, and it was, I would say, in the past 3 weeks, I've had interesting dreams, and I had felt that that was maybe a little bit blocked
mm.
um, before. So that's been nice.
Excellent. So your dreaming seems to be expanding now, eh?
Yeah, I dream a lot in general, but for the past 2, 3 months before, even though I was relaxed and not too stressed, the dreams were kind of shut down. And so
Mm,
that seems to have again opened up, which is nice.
mm.
And I think QHHT is great for that. Yeah.
Excellent. You are very familiar with QHHT and you're also doing the work, right? Your
Yes,
case.
yes.
Yeah.
I'm also a practitioner, yes.
Yeah. So from your perspective, what would you say to the people that who are thinking of doing QHHT?
Yeah, I would recommend sort of the interview process is where you kind of go over your life and different things that are happening. I feel like in the interview I may be focused too much on things that aren't so important right now. So I would recommend just really when you're thinking about your session and what you want from it, being really aware of where you are in the present and what is going on, and how you're looking for um, unblocking or yeah, just like specific reasons for the session. I kind of wanted just to experience it from the client's perspective. So I didn't really have like very specific important life things to work out, but even with that, the session was very interesting and provided me some things. But so I would say just kind of being focused on to as to where you are now and where there is still healing to be done in some ways. Yeah, and to prepare well, as if you can, to take the time to kind of meditate and connect to the higher self, like you had suggested, to do the writing to the higher self. And I was only able to do that one time. I have young children and a busy family. But I think that that is a great practice to do even more before and after the session to prepare.
Yeah, that's what I felt because the message came from Archangel Raziel, and
Mhm.
that's what I'm spreading the informations to people who are coming for the sessions. And what I'm noticing nowadays is that people come from Dolores fans. They are devouring Dolores books and watching YouTubes and everything. One thing consistent I am now experiencing is that they all kind of expect go to sleep and not remembering anything. So now, what would be the best advice to these people that who expects that they're going to sleep not remembering anything and wake up, the tape is going to let them know what's going to happen, the kind of expectations, right?
Yeah, and that's very important because sometimes in the session, you can feel that you are still awake and then think, oh, this isn't working, or it's not right, you know, something's wrong. And I found that very quickly in my own practice with people, and when I was kind of practicing on myself as a client, is that there's an in-between. Most people, like Dolores's books, she went through thousands of sessions, and her books are written, a lot of them of somnambulistic people, and also not somnambulistic. Like, she doesn't specify which clients and which stories come from somnambulistic and which don't, right? So sometimes she says this person didn't remember. But I think that as the veil is lifting and the energy is higher and awakening more nowadays anyway, we can be more conscious during the session. And so there is a personal responsibility to let go. And to still be awake and aware, and to be very aware that Sue is sitting beside you, and to know exactly where you are. And at the same time, there's all this other information coming in, and that's okay. And that means that the session is still working. Yeah, it's very, very important. And it's tricky because when you listen to Dolores's stuff, it doesn't seem like that's the case. And also a lot of her clients, she worked with them more than one time, right? Sometimes it's 4 or 5 sessions for that client to even be able to go that deep and become somnambulistic. And even then, it's not every person who needs to do that and will do that.
Yeah, the people who come more than once, the next time is even easier and deeper, and then further onward. That's my finding. But whoever comes from long distance to expect to be knocked down and not remembering anything, because words itself, like a somnambulistic itself, som means sleep, right? So words itself is kind of confusing, people find. And so expectation is there that, okay, most often I hear, am I going to sleep? Am I not going to remember? And, you know, that kind of questions is kind of common nowadays. I'm hearing from these Dolores fans, right? So, and explanation has to go there. Well, time's different and all that stuff. But it's, they're not convinced sometimes, you know? That's what, yeah.
No, that's very important. You have to be open to anything. Some people see past lives and some people don't at all. I've seen people just stay in colors for an hour.
Right, exactly. You know? Yeah.
It can be anything, and to just trust that whatever the session is going to be will be very healing. And I went in with that expectation because I've seen some that are so strange, you know, you don't think very much is happening, but still having a sense that it was very beneficial to the client. So I was kind of like, okay, you know, whatever happens. And yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, totally. We have to let go of that, which is not easy, by the way, because we're trying to just forget a couple of hours that let's just forget the ego. But that's sometimes not easy for some people. Yeah. So now what? Go ahead.
It's practice. It can be practice, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what would be the best practice for them to lessen the ego?
Well, there are some YouTube videos of like group inductions or even just guided meditation. And also, I find QHHT is very similar to shamanic practices because it's a journey with your consciousness.
Right.
So even any type of like shamanic journeying or meditation or guided meditation, if you're not used to opening up your mind and allowing the images to come in and trusting that process, that can be really, really hard to do. And to play with being conscious and doubting and also at the same time letting it go. Like those two things can exist and you can have a great session, and with practice it happens more easily.
Yeah. See, like once they experience some sort of life, either past life or current life or parallel life, and when we call their higher self, they kind of expect some great personages come and then borrow their voice or something, or booming sound or something. So this is images of some expectations that people have. And so that they, when we call their higher self, and then they just keep quiet, no matter how much I advise them to give a permission, they just quiet. And then some people say, "Oh, I was expecting somebody coming in." You see?
Yeah.
So this is really that is, how do you work with these people, right? What would be the easiest way for these people to let go and then allow that they are part of the higher self?
Yeah, I mean, I think every session is different, and sometimes even if the SC doesn't come through with words and very vocal, sometimes they can be silent, but they're still accessing it, or they can feel the voice coming, or it's just very dull. And sometimes I think it's very much an inner process that we can't know what's happening from the outside, but they can still benefit, especially if they've seen the past life. It could just mean that right now is not the time for it to connect. Like we also have to respect their process, which is again part of the expectation.
Very much.
Anything can happen. Some people don't see past lives and only talk to the SC. Some people see past lives and don't have SC come through, or none of it. Sometimes it's very strange. It's very open-ended, and I think holding the space for people to have their session and for them to let go and allow whatever it is to happen, that's when you have the most healing sessions, and who knows what that looks like for that individual.
Yeah, let go and trust and open whatever comes, right? That's the advice that we can always give them. But however, if they can't relax their ego and having such high expectation, thinking, "Oh, I should have that. I read Dolores books and they had this, I should have it, this," right? So
but sometimes the disappointment is the best lesson for them.
Well put.
Right? Yeah. Like it can be that if someone is generally has high expectations, or someone who does a lot of affirmations and expects life to just change, or reads Dolores's books and expects these huge sessions, and then they don't get it and they say they're disappointed, over time they can digest and process that and learn a lot. Like, oh, why was I disappointed? And that can come months later. Or some people are just hard-headed and it takes a really long time or lifetimes to learn some of these lessons.
So true. So true. So that what would you advise people to have more than one session? Would be desirable, or just one session and keep listening the same recording?
I think it depends on every person. I used to tell people one session and then wait a few months to a year to do the next session. And I now think that more sessions could be beneficial. It just depends on the resources, money and time, what they have available. But I think if they have it available and they want to use that as a healing practice, I used to say, don't do too many, you can get addicted. But I actually think that if there's a desire for it, you can kind of dive deep down, you know, and do like a session a month, or, you know, for a year even. It's just up to the person to see what feels best.
Yeah, what's my finding is that I see people, the more sessions they have, because life changes, like even if a week after session, the life changes already. So questions are already quite different. And I had one lady came about 5 months ago. Her question was all one way. And when she came this time, oh, no, my question's all different, right? Only 5 months, changes totally, right? So that's why sometimes that some people, as you said, the resources available and time's available, it would be beneficial for them to dig in and more often. And then
I think it could be. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. I know for me, it's not possible at the moment. So I wanted to get as much out of that one session, but that's again part of the expectations and putting a lot of pressure. So it's just kind of like, well, I just have to trust that this is what I can do this year, and then we see what happens. So it just depends. Like every single person's situation is different. I used to say don't do too many, but I think I've changed my mind about that.
So did I, because I saw the benefit of people who
Yeah.
has gone through more than once,
Yes.
and then changes from them is phenomenal. And they have said that they had so much more clarity, and the understanding about entire life is so much different. The first time they say it is just the list of the general questions, and some of them says from second session onward, they can go deeper and be more detailed.
Yes.
That's what some says. So
Yeah.
definitely beneficial for people, right?
And Dolores did do many of, you know, so with some people she worked many times over.
Yes, repeat, right? Kind of, she had a research client, and
Yeah.
and on and on and on. That's why she could get into so much information out. You don't get that all in one session, you know?
No. Right. Her books, we have to remember her books were written by being with one person for many sessions, sometimes months.
Right.
Sometimes 10, 12 sessions to get the information for the book. And it just depends what every person needs. I think is very different.
Yeah, the people come with the idea that one session they can get all that. So, you know, it's like expectations again, right?
Yeah.
And mind you, we already, you know, like we have about 2 hours when they lie down and going into the trance work. In 2 hours, their higher self will show some sort of life or something. And about halfway through it, we can only address some sort of their healings and questions. So they have to understand that we can't really be able to answer like 5, 6 pages questions. You know, some people have a typed 5, 6 pages questions. It's like, wow, it's going to take about 10 hours of a trance work. Will that be possible, you know? All at once? No. Yeah.
Well, what I like to do is I find when there's a lot of questions, there's often like an extra level of anxiety or control that people have, and they're trying to go into the details and figure it all out. And often there's an overlaying theme that is kind of one big question that can cover 2 pages of questions. And so I tell them that we can explore those themes, and then I also find that it can happen in the session where none of the questions that they came with are answered, but the SC will say one thing, or the past life will bring up one theme that will open their heart or undo something that heals so much that those other questions don't even matter, you know, the 5, 6.
Yes, absolutely. Because, you know, one person or somebody has a big main theme is self-love.
Yeah.
When the person does not have self-love, you know, there are all kinds of other auxiliary problems coming along with that, right? But once, as you said, once they fix the main theme, all the little things that attach is automatically resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, this is very interesting conversations because you are also a practitioner, and we are
Right.
going through similar, situations where nowadays what I find, people do not go to current life. I mean, past life or parallel life, they don't. Normally, they see some life, usually current life, right? Is that the trend you would notice?
I haven't been practicing very much recently. The last session I had was the colors session. So that was very interesting. It was nothing specific in terms of a life of a being. So that was kind of very interesting, and my expectations as a practitioner, and even that I feel I set up the client to possibly be disappointed. So I think we have to be careful to call it past life regression because it can be anything. And what I noticed before was that people who didn't believe in past lives so much, they would go to childhood or they would go to like future versions within this life. It was all very focused on this life. And I think that a lot of healing can come from that too. It doesn't have to be one way. That's why QHHT is so open-ended, and it can be really hard for people to accept that and feel okay in that. And that's part of the beauty of the technique.
Yeah, see, our job as practitioner is just asking questions.
Yeah.
That's our work. And then the client who comes to a session, their job is just let go and trust and just be relaxing and say whatever comes to your mind first, right? It's their job, and our job is keep asking questions. So when we probe more, because they are saying something and asking more, then we could go even further. But if they don't, their brain says, well, I think I'm making I'm making it all up. And then, well, that's not what I read from Dolores' books, or when I watched other, the past life regression videos, that wasn't. And then they're thinking, I don't think I'm doing it right, or I don't think I'm even under, that kind of thing. And sometimes they say, well, I'm right here. I'm very conscious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really like, it's ego is really strong.
Yeah, it's just that's normal. And unless you've done a lot of meditation or guided meditation, it can be really hard to have that conscious monkey mind there and also have a good experience. A lot of people think it has to be one or the other.
Right.
But you can be with both. And that's why I feel like shamanic practices and meditation have been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's how humans healed, and learned from plants, and got, divine wisdom was through this kind of meditation experience. And I think that's part of what QHHT is. And with our education and with how the world works right now, everything is very systematic. It's always there's a ready answer for you, there's a path to follow, and it can be really hard to let go and trust that these weird things you're seeing, and some people hold on to also things being true. Like, is this true? Did I really, I'm seeing this weird life, but is this really a true thing? And in the moment, it doesn't really matter. So to let go of that, you don't have to analyze, you don't have to think, oh, what part of history, or is this actually true? Did I actually live this? No, you let go of all of that, because in that moment, the story that's coming in is what your consciousness is choosing to enlighten something within your life and your being, and just live that out. Just live it, feel it, experience it, and the analyzing will come later. Time enough for that later.
Right. So true.
It's not so that's really hard for people, but it's also so human.
Yes.
part of I think the human capability to open up and have these experiences come in. And so different people do it different ways. You can do it with psychedelics or breath work or meditation or just in dreams when you're sleeping. But QHHT is kind of like a shortcut with a guide with no physical, you know, like effects to the body. So that's why I think it's a beautiful practice, and it teaches us about our humanness, to open up our consciousness and let these stories and visions come in, and then give them meaning like after, and allow time for that to come into place.
Beautifully explained, excellent.
Yeah.
So what would be your last advice for people who are thinking of coming for the session, and what they should prepare for the successful session?
Yeah. So just remember that it's very open-ended. It's allowing your consciousness to expand, and then for healing to happen. Really, like those are, almost like the two things, like the goals. And then after that, you just trust that source, like the divine will put it all into place. And sometimes it means having a session you're disappointed about because you had high expectations, and that's part of the healing, to actually process that afterwards. Sometimes it is a really incredible session, and it can be different from time to time. And so to prepare to do some meditation, to do the higher self writing, which is, to me, feels more like automatic writing, art, allowing that kind of like creative inspiration, the weird, things, just letting them be without analyzing and judging and all the stuff. And it's hard, but a QHHT session can be a really great way to open all that up.
Wonderful advice for people who are thinking of coming, and then it could help them to have a successful session. Mm-hmm. And I thank you so much, because I know you are in really busy, jam-packed time, and that I appreciate that you spare some time for this discussion. And hopefully that I see you again. And thanks for your time.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.